Hello everyone, and welcome back to JAS Reviews. My name is James, and on this channel I do reviews of both music and movies, along with the occasional commentary piece, so if any of that sounds interesting to you, then I'd appreciate it if you left this video a like, and subscribe to my channel to see more content like that. And today I am going to be doing another movie review, this time for the movie John Wick Chapter 4, so let's talk about it. Now, John Wick Chapter 4, of course, as the name would imply, is the fourth movie in the series of the famous action movies that have been coming out over the past couple of years. I still remember back when the first John Wick came out and just sort of exploded off the charts as being called one of the most unique action movies that they had seen at the time, that people in the theaters had seen. I think that has continued to be the case with even the rest of the John Wick movies. All three of these movies, in my opinion, well, all four of them now, are incredibly consistent and do what they do very well. I personally have always had a bias for the first one. I really like its sort of emotional background that it has, and I think that really carries it through a lot of it. And I also do think it has maybe Keanu Reeves' best performance in the series. I like that as the other John Wick movies progress, we continue to learn more about the lore. Now, for those of us who did like the more emotional stuff going on in the first movie, the second and third may not be as interesting to you, but I would debate that they are still great movies, and even if they don't have quite the same emotional core as the first one, in many ways they still do a lot right, I think. There's also this sort of side conversation, or rather you could say even main conversation, going on about, does John Wick even really want to leave as much as he says that he wants to? Is being a hitman, being a killer, just a part of who he is? They had been exploring that in the second and third movie, but I would say that it's this fourth one where the answer to that question comes in full force, and where we really explore the ramifications of John Wick's actions on both himself and the people that surround him. And in this movie, we sort of see the culmination of everything that the first three movies have been building up to. Now John Wick is finally facing off against the high table once and for all. And the question at this point is, will he be able to relieve the burden of being a hitman for them and finally redeem himself and live a normal life? Or will he die trying? Now, as I've said before, I think all the first three John Wick movies are great. All of them range from great to excellent. And I mean, for as much as I like the first one and consider the first one to be one of my favorite action movies that I've probably ever seen, honestly, this fourth one might beat it out. Now, I'm going to be careful to say that it definitely beats it out, because that could be recency bias playing. At the same time, I mean, man, this movie is so impressive from a variety of different levels, and there's so many things that I could talk about in regards to that. Let's talk about John Wick himself first. I mean, he is in the title of the movie, after all. I think this might be Keanu Reeves' best performance as his character. As much as I like his performance in the first three movies, I think he really shines here. You can tell he is putting his all into his performance. I think he's just generally enjoyed playing this character, and I mean, who wouldn't with a character like John Wick that is so just honestly badass in every way that you can think about. But I really think that he does great here, and he delivers a performance that is both brutal, but also honest and sort of vulnerable in many places. Also endlessly engaging in this movie is his quest to fight against the High Table. And we get to see the highest members of the High Table here, with Bill Skarsgård playing the Marquis here, and he is a new Marquis, very young and very arrogant and very power hungry. And of course, Bill Skarsgård absolutely nails this performance. He is playing a character that is very much within his wheelhouse, someone who is a sociopath and will do whatever they can to get power, and is maybe a little bit deranged in some ways. Donnie Yen is also great here as Kane, who was someone that John Wick used to be friends with, and their relationship in this is super interesting, because you see that there is some of the remnants of that friendship there, and there are even places when Kane is wanting seemingly to help John Wick, but we also see that he gets recruited by the High Table to ultimately kill John Wick in a final showdown. And so there's all that complication going on. And Kane also has his own arc going on of wanting to basically get back with his daughter and reunite with her and have a life with her. So his arc is sort of reflecting John Wick's in a way, with the two of them both wanting to get back to a more simple life where they can just love people that they care about or have cared about. And this movie goes big in its 2-hour, 50-minute runtime, which it should, because otherwise the movie would not stay engaging. So we not only have one, not two, but 4 different people who could be sort of considered hitmen or hit women in this movie. We also have Shamir Anderson playing Tracker, who sort of feels like maybe a young John Wick in a way. And then there's, surprisingly, Rina Sawayama in this movie as Akira. I was not expecting to see her in this movie, I'll be honest. I didn't even know she was a part of the cast until I went in, because she is more primarily known as a singer, of course, and she is a singer I greatly respect. But she really impressed me in this movie, even though she wasn't in it for super long. I really liked her character and the interesting reason she had for wanting to go after Kane specifically. And she has her own interesting little journey in here for the brief time that she's in the movie. We see her completely transform as a character, and it's really engaging to watch. And then, of course, you've got your classic favorites back. It's great to see Lawrence Fishburne back as Bowery King. He is probably the most cartoonish character here in many ways, but I always think that he has such a fun time with his role, and it's always fun to see him and Keanu Reeves together. I think they work very well off each other. Ian McShane is, of course, great as Winston. I just really think he has a certain gravitas to him whenever he's on screen. You're always interested in what he's having to say, and you're never really sure what move he's going to pull off next. And, of course, Lance Reddick is great once again as Sharon. If this is his last role, because he did pass away this year, which rest in peace to a truly unique actor. If this is his last performance, then he really did go out with one that I think was really good, and I think the movie really honored him as an actor very well. And Hiroyuki Sanada was also great in here as Shimazu. He was also in the movie for a short amount of time, but he was so much fun. Whereas I feel like maybe the other 3 John Wick movies didn't necessarily develop their side characters as much. And I didn't think that was a bad thing, because John Wick was working well enough on its own and the action was good. This movie, with as long as it is, did need some more interesting character arcs, in my opinion, and I think this movie really nailed that. And man, of course, what you're all here for, the action, and I am pleased to tell you that, I mean, the action is superb in this movie. I really did think that it had reached its peak in John Wick 3 with some of the best action sequences of the whole series. But somehow there are several sequences where they top it here in number 4, and it is just amazing how they do it. There are some scenes that go on for like 10, 15 minutes of action, just non-stop, and it is absolutely breathtaking when that happens. And I appreciate that they pace them out, too. They don't just keep them one after the other so you're feeling tired. But when they do happen, it's absolutely breathless. And then, in the climax of this movie, there is a top-down action sequence where the camera is doing a sort of bird's-eye view of the action, and it looks like a sort of video game cutscene, but it works so well, and it is so fascinating to watch. Definitely one of the best cinematic moments of the year. I honestly don't really have that many problems with this movie that I can think of at all. I suppose there's some parts in the beginning where it might take a minute or two to really get its feet off the ground, and I feel like there's a scene at the beginning that maybe didn't necessarily need to be there. And there are definitely some places throughout the movie where you could be feeling its length, but at the same time, the movie stays pretty engaging throughout. As a whole, I mean, this movie is excellent. John Wick 4 is an achievement for the action genre, in my opinion. Action is a genre that does take a lot to win me over. I do tend to find a lot of the genre cliched and uninteresting, but the John Wick movies have always been consistently refreshing in it, especially with just how creative they are. The addition of the lore of just the syndicate of hitmen has always been really cool about the series, and I think John Wick is a super intriguing character. So with all that being said, I mean, I'm going to give this movie a very, very strong 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is so close to a 5, it's not even funny. I might even update it to that eventually, because this movie was just excellent and gave me everything I could have wanted out of this series. So if you haven't checked it out, please feel free to do so. I honestly hope they don't come out with a fifth one, because I feel like this one is a very poignant conclusion to John Wick as a character. I'm not going to spoil anything or anything like that, but I think it ends John Wick's story off in a way that works very well, in my opinion. So please check this movie out if you haven't. I think it's a great time. And of course, check out the other John Wick movies. They all are just a very fun journey to go on. So yeah, that was my review of the newest John Wick movie. What did you think of John Wick Chapter 4 if you've seen it? Leave your comment in the comment section below. And once again, my name is James, and I do reviews of both music and movies, along with the occasional commentary piece. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, then once again, I ask you to leave a like on this video, and to subscribe to my channel to see more content like that. But until then, I will see you all in the next video.